We have to dig. We have to investigate. And if it takes getting dirty and wet and cold and miserable and smelly, I don't care. I want an answer.
For more than 200 years, treasure seekers have been fixated on one idea: the money pit. Everyone believed the secret had to be buried straight down. But what if that assumption was wrong from the very beginning? After decades of drilling failures and dead ends, the Lagina brothers took a different approach. And what they uncovered changed everything. Using cutting-edge scanning technology, the team detected something no one was prepared for. This wasn't a simple tunnel. It wasn't a hidden vault. The data revealed the unmistakable outline of a massive ship-shaped object, buried in a place where a ship should never exist. And here's the twist: it wasn't the only one. Further scans suggest a second anomaly offshore, concealed beneath centuries of sediment and silence. Oak Island may not be a single hiding spot at all. It may be the final resting place of an entire fleet that was never meant to resurface. The hunt for answers on Oak Island has always been brutal. Weather, water, and time constantly pushing back. But recently, the war room made a major shift. Instead of attacking the island with brute force, the team leaned into advanced technology. After 2 centuries of obsession with the money pit, a realization set in. The real answers might not be underground, but underwater. That's when Rick, Marty, and the team ordered a high-tech magnetometer survey of the northern shoreline. They weren't hoping to find loose coins or scraps. They were searching for something much bigger: huge iron signatures that would point to industrial-scale objects, possibly military or maritime in origin. Almost immediately, the results raised eyebrows. One signal stood out near Frog Island, a small patch of land just off Oak Island's coast. This wasn't background noise or leftover fishing gear. The scan revealed a straight, 6-foot-long linear feature buried beneath the sea floor. Now sure, there's plenty of debris in the ocean, but this location changes everything. Frog Island Shoal is notoriously dangerous. It's the kind of place ships avoid at all costs, unless they were deliberately brought there. The magnetic data showed dense concentrations of ferrous metal, the kind associated with cannons, anchors, or the iron framework of a large sailing vessel. To investigate further, the team brought in serious expertise. Veteran diver Tony Sampson and world-renowned underwater archaeologist Dr. Lee Spence. Dr. Spence isn't just experienced, he's discovered over 100 shipwrecks and recovered millions in treasure. When someone like him sees a magnetic reading and immediately lights up, it means something big. He didn't hesitate. Based on the data and the location, he identified the site as a strong candidate for a shipwreck, and not one that sank by accident. The theory: the vessel may have been intentionally scuttled, sunk on purpose, to erase evidence of whatever cargo had already been transported onto Oak Island. The dive itself was an exercise in pure frustration. The water was shallow, barely 20 feet deep, but visibility was awful. Thick silt and heavy vegetation covered the seabed. As Tony and Dr. Spence moved through the grid, their handheld scanners went wild. Strong signals, massive hits. But every attempt to reach the source ended the same way: mud, kelp, and nothing visible. They were hovering directly above history, yet completely blind to it. The instruments confirmed a large metallic object buried below, but without excavation permits, they couldn't disturb the seabed. The evidence was undeniable and untouchable. A ship, proven by science, still hidden by inches of silt. While the offshore mystery deepened, an even stranger revelation was unfolding back on land, inside the swamp. For years, the triangular swamp has fueled endless speculation. Some believe it was engineered, Others think it plays a role in the island's flooding system. But everything changed after a seismic scan conducted 2 years ago. That scan revealed a massive anomaly stretching nearly 200 feet beneath the swamp. It wasn't natural stone. The shape was curved, long, smooth, and unmistakably ship-like. A full-sized sailing vessel buried deep in mud, far from open water. It sounds unbelievable until the evidence starts piling up. Guided by the data, Billy Gerhardt and the heavy equipment crew pushed into the swamp's southern edge. This wasn't random digging. Every move was calculated. Then the excavator bucket struck something solid. Not rock, not clay, wood, but this wasn't ordinary wood. What emerged was a worked timber, smooth, shaped, and clearly crafted by human hands. It resembled a railing from the stern or quarterdeck of a ship. And that raises a chilling question. How does a ship's railing end up buried in a swamp? Ships don't wander into swamps by accident. That kind of placement suggests planning on a massive scale. The leading theory is that centuries ago, this swamp was once an open harbor. A ship sailed in, unloaded its cargo, and then the entrance was deliberately sealed. The harbor became a swamp, entombing the vessel forever. It's the ultimate disappearing act. Don't just hide the treasure. Erase the escape route. As excavation continued, Billy felt the bucket glide across something enormous and solid beneath the mud. It wasn't scattered debris. It was continuous, smooth, like a deck or hull. They weren't digging into random remains. They were brushing against the backbone of a buried giant. The tension was unreal. The recovered railing even featured a square hole, perfectly shaped for an iron fastener. This wasn't modern junk. The craftsmanship pointed clearly to the 1700s or earlier. But, as always, the island resisted. The excavation walls collapsed. Water rushed in. The mud reclaimed everything almost instantly. They were standing on top of a massive wooden structure, holding part of its railing in their hands, while the swamp tried to swallow the rest. The seismic scans say a ship is there. The wood confirms it. Yet Oak Island continues to fight to keep its secret buried. Finding artifacts is one thing, but understanding them is another. That's why the team turned to their go-to expert, Master Blacksmith Carmen Legge. If anyone can read history written in rust, it's Carmen. They presented him with a heavy, twisted iron bolt recovered near the stone pathway in the swamp. This wasn't a simple nail, it was a thick iron bar, over an inch wide, bent into a ring. Carmen didn't just study its shape, he examined the surface, and what he found was explosive. The iron was coated in charcoal residue. This metal hadn't simply aged, it had been exposed to intense heat. Not a small fire, not an accident. Something big burned here, and that raises a whole new set of questions. This metal didn't just experience heat, it survived an inferno. The iron was still fused with charcoal, a critical detail that tells a powerful story. That charcoal could only have bonded to the metal if the bolt was still attached to wood when it burned. Carmen's conclusion was chillingly precise. This was a ring bolt from a large sailing vessel, the kind used to secure cannons or massive cargo. But the burn marks are the real mystery. Why would a ship's ringbolt be exposed to extreme fire and then end up buried inside a swamp? That question fits disturbingly well with the scuttling theory. If you're a pirate crew, a covert military unit, or a secretive order, and you want to vanish without a trace, you don't abandon your ship, you destroy it. You set it ablaze, let the structure collapse into water or mud, and erase its existence entirely. No ship, no trail, no witnesses. Carmen narrowed the timeline even further. He dated the artifact between 1710 and 1790, a period known as the Golden Age of piracy and privateering. That time frame lines up perfectly with known historical activity in the region, and the location of the find makes it even more unsettling. The burned bolt was recovered near the Stone Road, a clearly man-made structure that looks suspiciously like a wharf or unloading route. The implications are enormous. Picture this sequence. A ship is deliberately brought in, secured with these heavy ring bolts, and unloaded. Massive chests are hauled across the Stone Road toward the money pit. Once the cargo is hidden, the ship is set on fire, destroyed on purpose to remove all evidence. The image is haunting. Imagine Oak Island 3 centuries ago, the night sky glowing from a burning galleon, while figures move silently in the shadows, burying a fortune meant to disappear forever. This is no longer just abstract data or digital anomalies. This is physical proof, a scorched piece of iron that witnessed its own destruction. The sheer force required to bend a solid steel bar like this speaks volumes. Whoever did this was either desperate, determined, or both. They wanted no record of their arrival, and no one following their departure. The captain's log. The early 1700s timeline brings one name sharply into focus: Captain James Anderson. A privateer, a landowner on Oak Island, and a man wrapped in mystery. Recently, the team examined Anderson's sea chest, a tangible artifact connected to someone who could sit at the center of this entire operation. Then came another major clue. When Gary Drayton uncovered a massive ship spike in the spoils, it added serious weight to the theory. This wasn't some small fastener. "That's fantastic. That is an 1.25-inch solid steel bar," one team member said. "That took real force to bend." The spike was enormous, hand-forged, rose-headed, and unmistakably old. This wasn't hardware from a small boat. This belonged to a ship built for long ocean crossings, and the size of that spike tells a story. Large spike means massive timbers, and massive timbers mean a vessel capable of carrying serious weight. Gold, silver, priceless cargo. The connection to Captain Anderson becomes even more compelling when you consider his role. Privateering was essentially legalized piracy, authorized during wartime. Privateers seized enemy ships and claimed their cargo, but not everything had to be reported. If someone wanted to stash unregistered treasure or secure wealth for the future, an uninhabited island off Nova Scotia would be the perfect vault. What's remarkable is how everything now aligns. The burned ringbolt Carmen dated to the 1700s. The massive ship spike Gary recovered. Same era. The ship's railing Billy uncovered. Same period. All signs point to a single coordinated operation in the 18th century. This isn't ancient Roman speculation or Viking mythology anymore. This is a story rooted in naval warfare, hidden wealth, and deliberate deception. The history of Oak Island is being written not in parchment, but in corroded iron and buried wood. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. If Anderson, or someone like him, was responsible, this wasn't just a treasure dump. This was infrastructure. The Stone Road, the wharf-like structure, the flood systems. These aren't the work of a few men with shovels. This is organized, large-scale engineering, closer to a military operation than a pirate raid. The ship spike may be just one fastener, but it hints at something far bigger. "It's like a clue," one team member says. "Either there was a dock here, a wharf, or even a shipwreck." A wharf makes perfect sense. And what if the ship itself was part of the design? What if its hull was used as a barrier, a temporary cofferdam, before being burned and buried to become part of the trap system. The deeper the investigation goes, the more the ship appears central to the entire mystery. The final defense. Let's take stock. There's a confirmed ghost signal of a wreck near Frog Island, a massive ship-shaped seismic anomaly buried in the swamp, a worked wooden railing, a burned ring bolt, a colossal ship spike. The picture has never been clearer. Yet the final obstacle remains: Oak Island itself. Every time the team approaches the truth, conditions turn against them. The swamp floods. Visibility disappears. Winter storms shut everything down. Even the law becomes a barrier. To properly investigate the wreck near Frog Island, they need to move sediment. But that requires permits, and permits require proof. Proof that can't be obtained without excavation. It's a perfect paradox. In the swamp, the challenge is even greater. The anomaly lies at a depth that pushes the limits of excavation. Dig too far, and the walls collapse. Billy can feel the structure with the excavator, but revealing it intact would require a full cofferdam operation. Draining the swamp, digging dry, months of work, millions of dollars. But the reward? A colonial-era sailing ship buried in the middle of an island. That would rewrite maritime history. The team now faces a defining moment. The data is undeniable. The artifacts are screaming at something massive just below the surface. But the final discovery, the ship itself, remains sealed behind mud, water, and red tape. They've uncovered proof. The legends are real. A ship came here. It carried something priceless. It was destroyed to hide the truth. And it's still down there. As the season changes and storms roll in, the team knows they're closer than ever. The scanners have already revealed the invisible. Now comes the hardest part: breaking through the final barrier. The mystery of Oak Island is no longer about whether something is buried there. It's about what it is, and how they can recover it without the island claiming another victim. The fleet is hidden, the trap is complete, and time is running out. The scanners don't lie. A fleet rests beneath the mud. Evidence of a massive cover-up continues to surface. But with permits denied and the swamp fighting back, will they reach the ship before Oak Island wins again? Or was this fleet meant to stay buried forever? Hit like if you believe the treasure is still there, and subscribe to see what the next scan reveals.